that was human-made.
We have a picture of one of his installations in Beverly Hills, another one in
Venice Beach.
Venice Beach.
Yes.
And they didn't look anything like oil derricks, so he came well qualified to this position, didn't he?
Yes, he did. And I should note as well, Huell, that he, as he always did, he brought together a team of people that helped him. So he had the advice for the plantings of Morgan Evans, who was really the mastermind behind the Disney work, Disneyland, and also Herb Goldman, who's the sculptor who came up with these wonderful forms.
I was going to say, look over here, waterfalls, and that's a beautiful waterfall as well. So that was very carefully planned and designed.
Absolutely there. We do have drawings that Herb created for the forms, and he very carefully came up with the screen to be able to cut the noise and also keep people from seeing behind.
So wait a minute, you say the screens, that's what these concrete objects are?
Absolutely. Those are what they were, basically chicken wire with support that they would have sprayed gunite on. So they're concrete outside.
They're beautiful forms, but they're there for a reason, to protect the people on shore from hearing the sounds of the oil drilling.
Absolutely. And the added value that Herb brought to this as an artist was, as Kara has pointed out, the interpretation of these forms reflects the urban landscape that you see across the way.
Boy, this is absolutely spectacular right here. The interaction between the water and the rocks and the concrete forms and the waterfalls and the palm trees. And I guess for better or worse, you just call that the condo structure over there.
That's right. Now, what you should know is that those towers were designed before Herb came on board initially, and so he worked with the city to slightly modify them.
But people, I understand, visitors to Long Beach thought they could stay out here.
I understand that. They get the Thumbs Company apparently gets phone calls every once in a while asking if they're for rent.
Well, it makes a heck of a presentation, doesn't it? I would imagine that this is considered a work of art by other landscape architects, isn't it?
Well, I would say, let's just mention that Joe, as a trained landscape architect, brought in over 300 palm trees, planted these islands with a huge variety of flora and fauna from as far away as Australia and California. So they are very carefully crafted environments, landscaped environments.
This wasn't just haphazard. Look at this over here. This is spectacular here, and this was all planned out meticulously, nothing by chance.
No, and in fact, we have photographs that show Joe overseeing the preparation of the soil, Huell, to actually allow this stuff to grow. Because one of the things he did was, instead of barging the earth in, they pumped it from the ocean floor. So what he had to do, sir, was actually have pools of standing water where the impurities would leach up, and then he added wood shavings and other things to the soil to prepare it so the plants could grow.
Make it plant friendly.
Absolutely.
Boy, this is something right here, coming right by it. Now, there used to be more of these on each island.
I think, Huell, I looked at the original photos, there were at least 4 drills, 4 wells, so 4 towers on most of the islands. I understand that as time has gone by, they don't drill as much, so they've been able to remove them. Also, you should know that the towers are movable. On the island.
What do you mean they're movable?
Well, you need to ask the Thumbs folks, but the towers can be shifted. They're on
to where
tracks.
they need to do the drilling.
Absolutely.
Does anybody, I've never heard of this architect, this landscape architect before. His name again?
Joseph Linish. He was well known within his own time doing landscape themed sort of park landscape designs, and we are fortunate enough at the University of California, Santa Barbara at the Art Museum to have his archives, and so the archives tells a great deal about this wonderful project through his drawings and the photographs, and that's how we're able to talk about these now.
Very few people know his name, but they should, because he had a major influence on what the coastline of California looks like today.
This was one of Joe's proudest projects. He really felt that he was helping to contribute to making Long Beach into what he called the Riviera of the West.
And there it is right there, the Riviera of the West. One of the 4 islands out here in the Long Beach Harbor. Now, Frank, all of these islands have names. That island off in the distance is...
That's Island Chaffee.
And we're headed right up here toward...
Island Freeman.
And there's a wonderful story about the names of these 4 islands.
That's right. Back in 1965, when the islands were originally built, they were named islands A, B, C, and D.
That's not very exciting.
It's not very exciting. So in 1967, the City Council of the City of Long Beach decided to rename them, and they did so in honor of the first 4 astronauts to perish in the U.S. space program. So Grissom, White, Chaffee, and Freeman were their new names.
Wow, what a wonderful tribute to them, and it sure sounds better than A, B, C, and D.
Absolutely. And you might notice on these 2 islands, Chaffee and Freeman, there's not nearly the same amount of attention paid to the facade and the aesthetic beauty as there was in the first 2 islands. And the reason for that is that the first 2 islands, Grissom and White, are nearest to shore, and they're the ones that the residents of the city of Long Beach see most frequently.
The only people who really see these are boaters.
Boaters and tankers and cargo ships.
Well, I got to tell you, though, you kind of set me up for this and said it wasn't going to be as beautiful, but this island is beautiful in its own way. It's very lush and very green.
They're all beautiful. It's just all relative. We spent a lot of time on upkeep and landscape here. You might notice that there's nearly 1,000 tropical palm trees here, and there's an awful lot of attention that goes into keeping the islands beautiful and keeping them looking good.
Do you have a full-time person who does nothing but manicure these islands?
It's more than a person. We have a full-time landscaping crew that keeps track of the islands.
And now that's what one of the derricks would look like if it weren't covered, right?
That's exactly right. That's a drilling rig without the facade over the top of it.
So that's what the condo structure covers on the islands we've just visited.
That's exactly right. That's what it conceals.
And now you understand why they wanted it covered up. I mean, I know it looks beautiful to you. You're an oil man. But it looks a little bit better when it's covered up, doesn't it?
I'm sure most people feel that way.
I love the juxtaposition between the palm trees and the raw oil derricks out there. It's about as tropical and industrial as you can get.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what the landscape architects really tried to achieve. And again, making it as economically feasible to do an island like this, but at the same time to make it as beautiful as possible, so then you can see this, again, what the perfect word, juxtaposition, or almost a symbiotic relationship between hard industrial steel and nature.
Yeah, but I don't know whether it would have looked as nice if those derricks hadn't been covered. Although in a way they kind of have their own beauty standing there amongst the palm trees.
Right, and again, the landscape architects never wanted to completely mask or make it something that it wasn't. It had to be representative of its function, which was drilling for oil.
Yeah, so you can only hide that so much.
You can only hide that so much, and they weren't trying to make it a mystery. The city knew, the community knew, and that was very important to the landscape architects. Again, making it a contemporary statement on the current times.
Now, as we come up to White Island, this looks like a barge with cars on it.
That is a barge with cars on it. We have barges that service all the islands during the day. Whenever we have work that needs to be done out here, we'll bring the trucks out to the islands on the barges, allow those trucks to drive off, do their work, and then return, and back they go to the shore.
Now we're just pulling right in to White Island. So there's a little pier right here, a little dock right here.
Every island has what's called a finger designed into it, and the finger is where the crew boats come in and land and people depart, and it's also where the
Look over here.
the barges come in and anchor.
So there's a lot of activity out here.
There is a lot of activity. We have probably on this island right now probably about 40 or 50 people that are working, and it can get to be much more active than that depending upon the drilling operation or the level of work, well work activity.